something similar happens to me, but it's like I feel that that person is trying to teach me something. The fact that something makes me angry a lot, it's because I have to learn something. I have the feeling that when it's not nice. It's like a
you learn, but how do you deal with the situation? Definitely you learn.
But the time you learn, the situation stops.
No,
if the situation
sometimes there is no stopping. If you don't just walk away, there is no stopping.
It's difficult, but I have the feeling that
you have to take your distance, because if
you have to keep maintain your distance.
It's getting so into you. And I have been also there in all our expat life. You learn so many people,
so many people,
and it's like, and people take advantage of you. I'm sorry to say.
Sometimes it's okay. No, it's okay. If I have something, they can. If I can give advantage, if I can help in somebody, it's okay. I'm happy. I'm willing to do it. But then, then after that, you don't speak ill to me. I don't expect that from you, huh? I don't expect you don't you take. I'm willing to serve. I'm willing to do anything that I can do because I can do it. So I'm doing it. But then you have to be polite. You don't take you don't think that, okay, I own that person.
The reason why Barbara is saying that it's better to take some distance is because you still fear that you can be hurt. It's the only reason for having this gap. But I repeat, if we still live in the same situation, it's because we have not been able to really forgive. Lydia just made a great presentation of the reasons why we need to forgive and how to do it. But now we are in level 4. And you know that your heart gets contaminated and that your heart chakra gets blocked. And not only your heart chakra, also your throat chakra, because you need to express something. You need to express that you have been hurt. You need to express that this is not the way that you like it, etc., etc. But all these things are seeds of the ego.
And but sometimes the person you try to make your point or try to make a conversation is not mature enough to make a conversation or talk to you. The situation gets so difficult. I sometimes feel there is no other way to just walk away.
Yes, sometimes we need to give up to have the reason or to give our point, because the forgiveness is not in the change of the other. It's in the change of my perspective. Let me also share with you this.
So I wanted to share and ask something. I feel like there's also probably everything is a nuance. I feel like there's also a difference between forgiveness and also finding your own personal power and setting your own healthy boundaries. Sometimes like as we've been saying, there's something to learn. Obviously, if we are getting hurt by somebody, or we feel that somebody's acting in a way or not being nice to us, sometimes we can also forgive or just be okay with it, or say, okay, they'll get better, because sometimes we don't have that much of self-love for ourselves, and I think sometimes it's important to find your own healthy boundary, and you may forgive the person later, because I think a lot of sometimes the way that people behave now, I think with our evolution, I try to understand it's also their journey. They are struggling with their own things, but that doesn't mean that I am willing to take their hurt or the way they behave with me. So it's important for me to set my own healthy boundaries to see what is okay with me.
Okay, let's see if after this, you're a little bit able to change your perspective. I really encourage you to read this book. The book is called A Course in Miracles. It is by Helen Schumann. And this book, she channeled Jesus. She is a Jewish woman who channeled Jesus. Jesus is the master of forgiveness. He called himself the master of love, right? There are other type of masters. For example, Buddha is the master of enlightenment, but Jesus is the master of love. Actually, what he really taught the world was forgiveness. I put this dog here because you see his eyes Well, dogs are animals of just pure heart. No, they don't see the evil in other beings. You have to be really, really bad with a dog in order for him not to forgive you or to fear you. But in general, they just come back to you and they don't stay in the past for whatever you have done to them. So this is a beautiful animal that teaches us forgiveness, and it is the one that is closest to humanity for a reason. Remember that when we open the heart chakra is when we have the opportunity of being spiritual. So that's the idea, that we see forgiveness in a different way. The Course in Miracles starts by explaining that all is an illusion, that what we call reality is not a reality, it's a world of duality and of separation. In the reality, the facts, and this is very philosophical, this book is it's a little bit complicated in the sense that it goes to the explanation of the etymological part of everything. And it says the reality is only one. And in that reality, we are all one. We are all the same thing. Nothing real can be threatened. And nothing unreal exists. And this is what they call the peace of God. Here I'm going to mention God many times because God or Holy Spirit, etc., are like the names in the doctrine of Jesus Christ. And he is the one that gives or inspires this book. But when I say God, just remember the source. It doesn't matter. It's the energy of life. It doesn't matter what do you believe on. Just imagine God as that source, initial source of life. So if nothing real can be threatened, because it is permanent, it is eternal, and nothing unreal exists, if I adapt that concept in my mind, I will not suffer. I will live in peace. And peace is the normal state of God. The reality has a knowledge, and this knowledge is based in truth, and it has only one law, and the law is love. Whatever is not under the law of love is not real, is not part of this reality. And this reality is permanent, is eternal, has no opposites, no beginning, no end, nothing. Is always the same. The world of duality is different. Life is a temporary state. What we are living right now, we know that we're going to live only 80, 100 years, whatever, and that's it. Or maybe less, maybe only 50, but it is a temporary state for us to learn a lesson. Our world is based on perceptions. Remember that with our 5 senses, we get what it is out there, and then we process it in our brain, and according to our culture, education, values, etc., we create a judgment, and that judgment releases hormones in our brain, in the endocrine system, and then we create a feeling. So through the thought that we get from the outside, we process it, and we get a feeling, and that feeling creates my life. It's like here I put this picture of a bubble, because I create my own reality. It's a bubble that surrounds me. And I create that bubble that I think I'm living, but the reality is that this person in yellow is not living the same reality as this person in blue. We share a common thing, and we both have different perceptions of this common thing that we share. But his reality is completely different from my reality. So the reality is based on perceptions, not in real facts. And we believe that we are separated. And this separation creates life, death, time, space, but all of them are inaccurate interpretations, and they are unstable. So because they are unstable, we need to defend them. We waste a lot of energy trying to defend my point, my reality, these things, because it's not the same for everybody. The Toltecs will say that this is to live the dream within the dream. It's like all what you see is an illusion. All this is a dream of a greater dream. but you have this period of time to learn certain things. We make it through our interpretations. We want that the things that you have created, you want to believe they are real because you created them, because there is an ego that says, all what you think, all what you feel cannot be in vain. This should have a purpose. So let's believe it's real. But this is not real, this is temporary. So if we know that this is temporary, whatever happens within this dream, we can go back to here. Nothing unreal exists. Whatever it happens, it doesn't exist. And whatever happens here is not ruled by the law of one, it's ruled by the law of separation. So the reality also says that applies to all what God created. God and his creation share one will. Love doesn't ask for anything. I'm not asking for anything back to you. I'm not asking you to change. I'm not asking that you also give me love. No. Here, I only understand and I only comprehend in the reality. This is full compassion. Everything is complete. I'm not looking outside for anything. It merely is. It exists and it just gets frozen there under the law of love. In the world of duality or of separation that we're living, it's made by the belief on opposites and separates wills in a perpetual conflict with each other and with God. Because I want that my reality is the accurate one, and you want that your reality is the accurate one as well. But they don't match. They are in different frequencies. Sometimes your ego pushing and creating. So as it is based on what I want, it is not based on the law of love. I also get in conflict with God's will. And this is very important. For example, as Priyanka was saying, but what happens if the person doesn't change? And all that is based on my perspective, not in the totality, not in the real reality. It's based on how I conceive or perceive things outside.
And a different frequency.
In a different frequency. Completely agree with that. There needs constant defense because it is not real. I already explained that. You cannot escape easily because you are the creator and the main character at the same time. So like, who can tell you? It's your own bubble. So nobody outside can really explain you that this is not real because you cannot get out of it. Perception makes projections of the world we want to see. Whatever I take outside, remember that my brain is processing it according to what I have in my mind. So it's my own judgment. So it's like a prison, and that's why I put this picture here. You will never be free until you free yourself from the prison of your own false thoughts. You need to understand that your personality, which is the compound of your thoughts and your emotions, is not real. There is something real beyond that. That personality is the way that you get to know this reality. But you have to overcome your personality, free yourself from your thoughts and from your emotions to really get to know the truth. So we look in others, what we lack in ourselves. We are constantly trying to be complete because we don't feel complete as in the reality we are. We feel that we need to get something from others. So we are constantly looking for external approval. We want to prove that we are innocent. We want to prove that we're not guilty. We want to say we're happy. We want to look for so many things, but we don't understand that we already have them. Because in the reality, our qualities are part of the law of love. So in this world of separation or duality, is our ego the one that is trying to support all these, that it is creating all these? In the moment, the forgiveness is part of breaking this prison. In the moment that I decide to take this decision of forgiveness, I open my heart. I'm not working from my mind anymore. And this is very important because the heart is the only one that can really accept and understand with compassion the ego. It's not that I'm going to fight with my ego. My ego has a purpose to be there, but I'm going to understand that that is not my real self. Here we have like some things to escape from the false reality. For example, know that we are all one. There is no separation. In the moment that I feel attacked by somebody, or that I say, I need to forgive this person, in that moment, I'm saying, you are there, I am here, we are not the same. We're disconnected. So if I know that we are all one and that love is all that there is, I don't need to forgive anybody, because what just happened was a lesson for me to learn. All what you do to others, you are doing it to yourself. In the moment that I am not forgiving somebody, I'm not forgiving my own self. Why you're doing it to yourself? Because the biochemistry that we have explained many times. All that you feel stays in your own bubble. And it comes back. It works like a toroidal field. It is like I produce it, I create it, I leave it, and I receive it back. So everything I do it to myself. And do not trust yourself. This is very important. To escape from the false reality, you cannot trust yourself. You cannot trust your personality, your thoughts, your feelings, because they are fake, because they are created by your own perceptions. That is only one little part of the whole truth. In order to create a greater perception, you will have to understand how Barbara thinks, how Livia thinks, how Maria thinks, how Sumi thinks, how Malika thinks, and creating and building all these bricks of perceptions, you have a better understanding of the truth, but you are never going to have the totality of the truth, never ever, because there are perceptions as dust or little grains of sand. There are many, plenty. Actually, is this world of duality where we believe that each of us is different from God, but we are actually manifestations of the same God or of the same source. We believe that we have different way of thinking and we have a field of full potentiality. So there is never one truth, at least in this reality. So we have to recognize that our perception has errors, has mistakes, is not complete. And in the moment that we recognize that, we are more open to forgive, because we can be able to be in the other person's shoes, saying, okay, this is what I think, this is how I feel, but what about the other? What was his real intention? What is in his head? So that's why the Toltec says, never make assumptions, because most of the drama is of my own perception, not what is really happening. It's in my mind. The other thing to escape from the false reality is accept your responsibility in this. Forgiveness has all to do with you, has nothing to do with the other person. Don't blame others for what you're feeling, because what you're feeling is your responsibility. What you're feeling is your own creation. What you're feeling is the outcome of the process of getting that reality into your brain and processing it with your past and having a new outcome of a feeling. That is the responsibility of changing it. In the same way that you caught that idea, in that same way, you can change that idea. When you change that idea, you awake from the dream. When you are not trusting yourself, when you are not based in your personality, you awake from the dream, because the dream is this duality, this separation. When I understand the reality, which is the permanent, I'm not in the dream anymore. So forgiveness is the door to awakening. It opens the heart to this new reality, but it is a decision and it is a hard one. As Livia shared with us, as Gandhi explained, It is for brave people. It is not for everybody. Many people had to pass thousands or millions of lifetimes in order to really understand this. I put this picture here that says you must first realize the pressure in your mind before you can escape it. So that is like the first step that Livia was saying. No, I have to be aware of my feelings and my thoughts and take the decision of changing them. But first realize that what you're feeling and what you're thinking is imprisoning you. It's not letting you be free. There is one thing that really is important to explain about forgiveness, and it is the guiltiness and the punishment. We're always trying to blame others. No, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, but it is not me. It has nothing to do with me. When the total situation has to do with me, because I create my own world. I create what I'm living. And in that way, I can just change it, can modify it, because I'm the creator. So these two concepts, guiltiness and punishment. Just coming back to the main point, if no one can hurt us, therefore there is no need to punish or to forgive anybody, right? But we believe that the past injustices have just given us the right to resentment and revenge. We say, this that happened to me definitely needs to be, needs a compensation because I was so much hurt. So our attempt to rearrange that thing that was based in anger, resentment, or grievances will driving us to constant suffering because we are always looking to have this revenge. And then I will always say, I suffer because of you, therefore you owe me. It's like I'm looking outside that thing that I lack, that strength that I cannot find in myself. I will always blame that other person. And then all my energy, all my anger, all my resentment will go to that person. That is what I think. In reality, remember that this, the fake reality in duality, what happens is that I create my own bubble. So whatever I am feeling, I am emitting it to myself. I'm not sharing that with that person. I can share it in that field, but it's according to the set of beliefs of the other person, if that person is going to be affected or not. But in reality, I cannot damage anybody unless that person agrees with my point. So I am trying to blame others. That is not the solution, because what I am proposing with revenge is a solution of attack. And whatever I do to others, I do it to myself. I'm attacking my own self back. I believe I am the victim, but that is an excuse to attack the other with my poison, with these hormones that I produce. I am projecting outwards what I'm feeling inside. So it's like if I enter into this shield that I think that I am protected, the ego is telling me, okay, if you attack, if you're a victim, you are protected, nothing to worry about, but it is completely the opposite. I'm not safety there because I am not happy. I am fear. I am in fear. And then the ego is only tricking me because I am accumulating more guilt, more revenge, more bad feelings, and I am becoming more unhappy. I'm feeling the opposite. The ego pretends that by seeking for revenge, trying to say that somebody else needs to be punished and whatever, because that person is guilty, will allow me to feel better. But it doesn't let me feel better. All this revenge and negativity that I'm accumulating, I'm sending it back to me. It makes me more unhappy. So that is a trap of the ego, believing that Mandela explained it very well. No, it's thinking that you're giving the poison to your enemies, but actually you're drinking it because you are creating your own world. So guilt says that we deserve punishment or that other persons deserve punishment. And this belief is the source of all the suffering. We believe that we deserve this punishment so we can perceive a punitive, fearful God. And this creates more separation. If you remember in the past, most of the tales of the legend says, if you don't behave in a certain way, or if you do this or that, there is a bad god or bad goddesses, whatever, that will come and punish you for what you just did. But this is not love. No? So like, hold on, God is supposed to be love. And then why am I going to fear or believe somebody is going to punish me and treat me bad? Or why should I fear something that is really God? If you see, like theologically, this doesn't match. But fear is something that controls the people. So for the high spheres has been always very easy to impose fear in people so that they can be controlled, and that's it. They will avoid doing certain things just because they fear. For example, the police in most of the countries is something that you fear, so you won't do this or you won't have this behavior just because of them, not because you really believe that what you're doing is wrong. Guilt then gives the rise to fear, which really is the expectation of punishment. Fear is the dominant emotion in this world, and that's why we are not free. So I put this thing that says, stop blaming others. You are as happy or miserable as you choose to be, because you choose. This is from a pastor, John Hagee. He has an organization, a big church, but I like what he says, because it's a decision. No, that I decide not to give the responsibility of my own creations to another person. I decide to take the responsibility of my creations because I know I do it. I am aware. I'm in a different point of consciousness. So according to the normal way of forgiving, we will say forgiveness is when the perpetrator becomes a victim. No? The victim believes that has been hurt and believes that has the power to forgive another person. I say, that person owes me something. That person caused me damage. I am the victim. But because I am the victim, that person is has to ask me, has to say, I'm sorry. That person has to say, I'm sorry. That person owes me something. So I get into a higher level on top of the other person to pressure that person to say, sorry, forgive me, whatever. So I'm not the victim anymore. I am the perpetrator now. So you see how my role of a victim is to impose my ego on top of another person. So the perpetrator is now the victim, and that needs redemption from the victim, who now is a stalker, is condemning that other person. But again, it's the ego that it is attacking. So there are three ways of forgiving. The first way is the one that Livia explained, and it is, I forgive what I thought, remember, this is not real. I forgive what I thought others made to me. In this step one, life is happening to me. I don't have the control of life. And I'm blaming others all the time. And this is an ego-based creation. Obviously, we have to forgive at least in the one step, in the second step, and the third step, because in all of them, if we don't forgive at least a little bit, we are damaging ourselves. But the basic forgiveness is, I forgive because the other person did to me. I am not responsible for my creation. Is the ego protecting you? You are based on fear. The second one is, I forgive inside. And it is what Barbara was mentioning. She says, first you have to forgive yourself. Well, yes, but when you think that you still need to forgive yourself, it's still ego-based. Now the ego is saying, oh, it was your creation. So it was yourself who created all this. So it's your guilt. So there's still, I'm not blaming others, but I'm blaming myself for what I just created. And I forgive myself because I believe the others did something to me. So this is still from the ego. This is still not completely right if you blame yourself or if you blame others. But obviously we have to pass for the two processes. We have to forgive the rest of the world, and we have to forgive ourselves. But there is the third way, and it is the way that it is teaching or taught in the Course of Miracles, and it is, there is nothing to forgive, because whatever it happened was not real. Forgiveness in the Course of Miracles, forgiveness is a miracle because it takes you like in a quantum jump, because you understood that there's nothing to forgive, because you understand that there is a life purpose, that we were souls that before coming to this planet, we agreed that we were going to live certain circumstances in which we are all going to be masters of the other person, and you were going to learn a lesson. We agreed that from the beginning. So we say, okay, I'm leaving this situation and there's something I need to learn out of this, and I'm going to evolve with whatever it happens. Unfortunately, suffering is one of the things that more shakes us. So it is one of the things that more teach us. But I'm going to stop seeing this with my own judgment, with the prison of my personality, thoughts, and feelings. And no matter how bad the person had hurted me, I understand that that is impossible. The person cannot hurt me, cannot really hurt my essence. That person is hurting my ego, is hurting my personality, which is unreal. My personality is a set of values that has been created by my culture, by my education, by the way that I process the information in my brain and in my heart, but that is not real. So understanding that whatever it happens, even death, no, even somebody killed me, somebody, the worst that can happen in this lifetime, I can turn that out with gratitude to really learn the lesson behind whatever I'm just studying. So in the Course of Miracles, the real forgiveness is a shift of the perception. It's not blaming the others, it's accepting my responsibility, and is trying to look for whatever I have to learn here. Is I shift my perception, in which we let go of the perception that a sin or that something bad has occurred. Because nothing bad can occur. Everything is under the law of love. The Pope, one of the popes, was one time trying to be killed, and the assassin was caught in jail. And this Pope wanted to understand what were the causes, or what were the things that inspired this guy to commit this act. So he started going to jail and visit this person that caused him this damage. He started visiting and visiting him. And then he found out that this person had suffered so much. And the Pope asked him, what has caused you so much suffering that you think that by killing me, you're going to release your pain? So he starts saying, well, the church has affected my family, my town, many kids in the world. This is something that is not true. This, da, da, da. Okay, by killing me, you think that this is going to be solved? So that person started to be aware of his real problem, of what was really affecting him. And actually, these two guys became friends. The Pope not only forgive him, but with his forgiveness, he also released the condemnation or the guiltiness, the need of attacking of the ego of this other person. So really, forgiveness is a quantum jump. But now that you know that there are two realities, the reality that we create and the real reality, which is permanent, unchanged, and based on love, you can always choose to come back to your center. Only by asking to the source, to your God, to whatever you believe in, I don't want to leave this situation. And I know it is not real. I know I am creating it. I know I am responsible for this, but I want to move on. I want to change. Only by your intention of asking to move on, there is like a source, a strength, something that comes to you that blesses you, that really changes you, that helps you to change the perception. In Christianity, it is called the Holy Spirit, but it is a force that helps humanity to get out of this grieving, to get out of the drama, to really ask for the liberation of suffering. The perception of separation, here I also put this picture, I liked it because you can see, that there is this woman, no, that is seeing the paradise when she forgives, but not to forgive is living in darkness. No, it's her own bubble. So if I perceive somebody is attacking me, is because I attack first. How do I am attacking this person if that person is the one that is causing me damage? Because I perceive that that person is separated from me. I am violating the main law of oneness. How can I see that that person is not with me? It's because I don't recognize the divinity within that person. So I am attacking first. My ego took command, and my spirit, which is the real part, was moved away. If I perceive that somebody is attacking me, it's because I attacked first. How do I attack somebody? It's because I don't recognize the divinity of that person, because I see that person separated from myself. In the moment that I think that that person is there and I am here, that is an attack. It's a judgment, something that it is not real. So when I feel into this deeper separation, and you can separate with everything, you can separate with nature, you can get separated of your partner that it is so close, you can get separated of whatever, every living thing you can get separated. Then I feel bad. Separation, the more I separate from the source, and the source is in everything that it is alive, I start feeling that I'm lacking something. In Christianity, you feel that you sin. In other, because we have the Judeo-Christian beliefs are so deep in our unconscious mind that for us is really a prison. You grow up with these beliefs, but many cultures have different beliefs that also limits you. And in that state, maybe it's not called a sin, but it is called a guilt. No, because I separate when I feel bad about what I did or about what I think. In that state of separation, I can only feel guilt. I can only suffer. I can only feel pain. And I cannot accept it. It's so difficult for me to accept it, to consciously face it, that it goes to my unconscious mind. It stays there. It stays there until something similar, until a different situation arises and brings me that back. But I'm going to act unconsciously about it. So the experience will repeat and repeat until I'm able to get out that part, to take that part out of my unconscious mind and bring it to conscious and then solve it. But maybe at certain moments I am not prepared. Maybe at certain moments in my life, I will prefer to be blind about it. I'm not ready. It's too painful to deal with it. And it requires a very courageous person to face it and be very strong in your energy to be able to say, it's like an addiction, no? To be able to quit something, you need to be strong. This is as addict as any other thing because you are releasing a lot of substances in your brain that you would like to maintain. Fear is very addictive. You would like to feel fear because you feel safe. Your ego is saying you feel safe, you're controlled, but it is not how it really is happiness. The message of the Course of Miracles is that we can never sin, that we can never be guilty about anything. We can never change ourselves because there is a permanent thing that it is always there. The only thing that we need to get out of these states of drama in this reality is change our minds, change that perception. The miracle is a free deliverance from the imprisonment of the human condition. We understand that the human condition is in this way of separation, but it is not how it is. And it is our right, because we never sin, we can really not damage other, and nobody can really damage us. Separation never occurred, and the unconscious level of mind also contains our call for God's love. So it doesn't matter what had happened, if you had been so bad in your life, or if you have received so much damage in your life, there is always a way to go back to your center, a way to go back to the source, that it is full of love. And you will be able to forgive, you will be able to forget what you have done, if you, in the case that you are the perpetrator. So it doesn't matter. You can go back to the source and just gain lessons, being the bad one or being the good one, what you think is good, but that is a judgment. That's, again, not the reality, part of your perception. How to change your perception? There are 3 steps of changing your perception. The Course of Miracles says, to awaken in heaven, all we need is change the perception, because the perception makes the projections, or the projection is made by the perception. So whatever I just think and feel is what I'm going to create. No? We heal our perception by forgiving the world for what it did not do to me, but I have still to do it. So forgiveness is the answer to our separate condition. So the first step is to identify the cause of your pain as your own perception. That what happened is my interpretation of the reality, and brings this illusion to the light of truth. Okay, this is my interpretation, but this is not the reality. I have to understand that this is not something real. The second step is to let go of your perception, okay? I'm going to think different. I'm going to try to see this out of the box. Have a little willingness for the source to remove it and replace it with truth. And this is what I'm asking you to ask for help, because you are not alone. We have these spiritual guides that helps us to forgive. Forgive requires so much courage, and it is so difficult. As Livia said, some persons take 10 years or more to be able to forgive. People can take a lifetime to forgive. People can die and have to come back in another lifetime to be able to forgive. That difficult it is. So sometimes we cannot do it alone. We need to ask for help. And we have spiritual guides, and also you have, I don't know, psychologists and many other persons that can help you out. But only with your intention, by asking internally, I want this help. The correct person will arrive, the correct thought will guide you, the accurate song, the situation in which you are able to forgive will present. But you have to have that profound and sincere intention of forgiving, of changing your perception. And the step 3 is the source will replace your perception with his. And the perception of the source is love. So he will give your mind a miracle. For the step 3, you don't have to worry. That is what it happens, and it will come automatically. And it is called a miracle because, as Livia said, you have this thing in your shoulders, this heaviness, this thing, this, you're living the hell, but in one day you just change, because you change your perception. So you release all that and you become that innocent person. We are actually, our normal state is of innocence. It's like children. We came to this world in that way, but with all the things that we put in our brain, culturally, education, whatever, we transform the world with judgment. Yes, Barbara?
Yeah, that's why I meant, exactly that's what I meant when I say that you have to forgive yourself, not because of all the egos, it's everything that we put in our mind, this chatterbox, that when you are facing a situation, then it's going like this, and you should have done this, and you should have done. So just to say, okay, no, I'm taking a step back to all of this, and really get in a comfortable zone for yourself, to say, okay, that's it. I don't want to deal with these things anymore, you know, all these thoughts and everything that I'm putting here on, and just, you know, and say, okay, I did what I did, and like Livia was saying, that she put herself in front of the mirror, you know, and said, okay, that's it. Livia, you have to get out of that somehow, you know. That's actually what I meant, you know, because we are getting so full, like you were saying, it's full of all this clutter that we have in our mind, which is actually not the reality. Like you were saying, it's just that we are pushed into that somehow.
Exactly. That, but we are pushed and not pushed. We choose to live this way. We choose to learn that lesson, and that's why we're living it. So what the best way to get out of that is accepting that it was my decision to live that, and that I have to learn something about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We are not alone in our spiritual journey, and this is very important, because we choose these masters, people that will cross our paths, that all of them have something to teach us, right? And some are masters of pain and suffering, and some are masters of happiness. But that's why I put this picture that says, we are not all alone, all one, but we are all one, right? So to really forgive, we need to extend that forgiveness to others, because in the same way that we forgive others, we are forgiven. So it's something that we have to give in order to receive. Extending forgiveness to others heals them in mind and body. And this is the main sense of the word miracle, because you are actually making something that is a spark that will process to many persons. The journey to God is not a lonely journey. Through joining with others, we discover our own wholeness and clear the way for uniting with God. So we are going to need these masters in order to learn our lessons and come back to source. With forgiveness as our practice, we journey towards the goal of the true perception. And the true perception looks on the real world, which is composed of the holiness in all minds and the loving thoughts in those minds. So the true perception allows me to recognize the divinity within everybody, because everybody has this spark of light, everybody. No matter how bad I see that person, that it is, again, my own judgment. Make sure that that person can be so bad for my set of values, but will have a lot of good things for his own set of values. But if I'm able to see the light within that person, his holiness, I am able to change my perception, to be in the true perception of the real world. And that is the happiest experience that we can really live in Mother Earth. It is the goal of the spiritual journey to remember God and our true identity in every living being that we see. Now that we know all this, that you know that we are not in the reality, right? To forgive is to set a prison free and discover that the prisoner was you. The first thing I need to liberate is from my own self. Now that I know that this is not real, what can I do? Choose to live a happy dream, not to live in drama. Get to know that many of the things that are happening are not true. Don't do to others what you don't want them to do to you, because get to know that you're doing it to yourself. Don't see the other different or separated from you, because remember that this is the same attack. This is the first attack. See the other ones with separation. And that person will perceive it, and that person will see you in the same way. Remember that you are creating it, and it is considered as an attacking spirit. So I'm going to have a lot of prevention of that person if I'm seeing it separated. And get to know that if that somebody crosses your path, is because that person is the person that needs to be there, is your master at that time. Notice that when you are judging or blaming, you are damaging yourself, and try to release it. As Livia mentioned it, try to do it as fast as possible, because you are damaging yourself. Align with love, trust God, trust the source. because no matter what happens, the only thing that you can do is return home, come back home, meaning home, heaven, no? That like, even if you die, even somebody kills you, it's impossible that they really kill you. Your soul is permanent, eternal, but you have just learned the lesson. And forgiveness is a tool to wake up, is to tap back into the source, into the reality. What is the process of waking up? Getting to know that there is a different reality, getting to know that there are things that are complete happiness, complete peace, complete love, and tap into that. So forgiveness is a way of waking up.